Today is October 26, 2025, and welcome to the 459th episode of the So Videogames podcast. Here on the show, I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I'm the one-man host of the show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility information on every review that we publish. Hello. Hey, what's up? Welcome back. Good to see you back so soon. If you are a regular listener, if you are an irregular listener, welcome to you also. I love everybody, except for the people that suck. So this is a bit of a weird show. I have a lot to cover, lots to talk about in the main section, but I literally just uploaded our Halloween episode like yesterday, and I got the posts up and did all the PR for it and everything. So I feel like I just got done podcasting and now I'm podcasting again. Which is strange and kind of disconcerting, and I don't know what day it is, but I want to get the show back on track. I've been kind of like off the schedule a little bit just due to work and life and stuff like that, and then we had the Halloween show, which was kind of a weird one. So bear with me. I think we're going to cut away some of the fat of the show. We're going to just get right down to brass tacks. Going to skip housekeeping, and I may skip something else. We'll see. But enough wasting time. I'm literally talking about keeping the show lean, and I'm wasting time right now. Let's get out of this zone. Let's get into the good zone. Let's talk about the content. Let's get to it. Before I do that, let's talk about stuff we published at GameCritics.com this week. I just mentioned the website. If you haven't been to the website, I invite you to go over there and check it out. It is maintained by myself and a tech support person, and we have a whole bunch of writers who do all sorts of coverage. And we all have a shared love of accessibility in video gaming. Stuff we published this week. Of course, 458, the Halloween episode of So Videogames. That just literally went up like yesterday. We published a review for Absolem from Darren Foreman. We published Artist Impact by Andre Pedro. We published Blippo Plus from Justin Granfield. We had Madden NFL 6 from Brad Bortone. And we had Robots at Midnight by Jason Ricardo. Those were just a handful of the things that went up last week. And we have an archive that goes back literally 26 years. So if there's some game out there that you want to know about, odds are it's in the archive. And if it isn't, let me know. We will do what we can to rectify that. Also, just a quick shout out before we get into it. Heads up that the Patreon exists that supports this show and also GameCritics.com. All the costs of this podcast and that website are paid out of my own pocket. This pocket that my hand is in right here. This pocket. If you love this show, if you love the website, if you love them both, I would invite you all to chip in and help me keep them running. And if everyone listening would chip in just $1 a month, just one measly dollar a month, every expense would be covered and then some. If you could afford it, I would appreciate it. And there are some people who can't afford it, and I do appreciate these people. Every week I've been giving a shout out to a handful of people who are supporting the show. I'm greatly grateful, eternally grateful, and I want to just give more love to the people I haven't gotten to yet. I've only been doing like maybe 5 or 6 a week, and so there's a few more to get through here for sure. This week, we are giving a big shout out to Grab Lloyd, Andreas, Bill F., Paul Grillberger, and Steve Brown. Thank you all very much for supporting the show with your hard-earned dollars. I super appreciate it. Thank you. You are my favorite people. Sexy, handsome, smart. That you are, and that's why you are a listener of this show. Also, heads up, the YouTube channel still exists. It's at GameCritics.com videos. You can find hand-curated trailers, video reviews, all sorts of stuff. Interviews. We had a couple interviews go up recently, so check that out. And I think that's all the plugging I need to do at the top of the show. All right, folks, let's get into it. Let's kick things off with Circle Backs, where I circle back to things I have covered in depth on previous episodes. Not going to get into all the details right now, but this is just a quick update, let you know if my thoughts have changed on something for better or for worse after spending more time with it. Let's see, only one Circle Back this week, but it's a doozy. Yet another Zombie Survivors. I played the demo version 2 episodes ago, the one right before the Halloween show. It was supposed to be the full version, but PR sent over code that didn't work, so that was a bummer. But I did find that there was a demo available on the Xbox store, so I downloaded that, gave it a shot, really liked it. If you missed that episode, basically it's a Survivors like a Vampire Survivors. except there is a couple twists. I think the primary one is that instead of having one character, you have three. You start with one. You can choose from, I think, maybe 9 different ones. You unlock them over time. And then as you go into the world, you'll shoot a whole bunch of zombies, collect experience, level up with randomly assigned power-ups, basically following the Vampire Survivors template, and it's a good one. But after a little while, you'll get a SOS from a survivor, and if you go over there, you will get your choice of 2 survivors or a cash bonus. In general, I think it's much better to take the survivor because this game can get really hard. So, like, let's say, for example, you start off with the SWAT guy. He's got, like, I don't know, assault rifle and a helicopter, bombing raid, and a couple other things, grenades and stuff like that. And then you get the SOS, and then it's like, oh, there's a medic who can heal you if you stand still, or you can get a blowtorch guy who shoots fire all over. And they're both good. I mean, I think everybody in the game, I've played with all of the classes so far. In case I haven't mentioned it yet, I think this game's great. I love it. I think it's very, very, very good. If you like the Survivors template, this one is a very interesting one and a worthwhile one. I know there's a lot of them out there right now, and many of them don't really bring too much new to the table. But I think this one actually has a lot going for it. I have to say, though, I was ready to kind of give this one a review, but then as I thought about it, I'm like, they do specify, the developers that is, that this is an early access code. And I didn't realize that because I guess I'm just not used to early access things being on Xbox. I think of that more of a PC domain kind of a thing. But I got to the end of the game and I was waiting for like credits to roll, but then I'm like, wait a minute, there's still like one more level that didn't unlock, and it looks like there's a slot for one more character. And I figured I would just like unlock those as I played, but like nothing I did unlock those. And I sent an email into PR. They haven't responded back yet, but I'm like, is this the early access? Am I hitting the limit of the content, or is there something I need to do to unlock these? Like, I'm unclear. Like I said, they haven't replied back yet. I suspect the game has more content coming. So with that in mind, I cannot give it a full review because the game, from what I can tell, is not finished, even though it's on Xbox, which is, again, kind of a surprise. But what's here is great. I have been loving my time with this game. I love the different classes. They all have something different. They play differently, and each one has different builds. So, like in Vampire Survivors, you would pick a character, they would have a beginning power, and then you could just get whatever powers you wanted and make a big mix and match. But in yet another... Yeah, oh my God, I can't even say it. Can't even say it, folks. Yet another zombie survivors. That is really hard to say fast. Try it. Go ahead, I'll wait. Each character has their own strengths and weaknesses. And then on top of that, each character has their own build or several builds. So you can go into the skill tree between games and you can kind of allocate points into their skills where you want them. So you can really lean into the assault rifles for the SWAT guy, or maybe you're like, actually, I like the helicopter power better. I'm going to put more points in the helicopter power. Or maybe I like the grenades better. I'm going to lean into that a little bit more. So you can tweak your guy. They also come with bonuses that can affect like all of your other survivors and can affect each run. So there's lots of switches to flip and lots of things to tweak, which I think is great. And I think that's one place where it really varies from Vampire Survivors. In a good way, and not criticizing any of them. I think they're both great. I love Vampire Survivors, played it for like 1 billion hours. But I think this one is bringing something new to the table, which I think is great. And it feels, when you're doing the runs, like it's not so much about randomly getting these weird OP builds. I think it's about surviving long enough to get your guy up to the speed that you expect him to be at, which is, it feels a little bit like League of Legends in some ways, where you're like, you have a specific build, you're trying to get the power-ups, you're trying to stay alive, and then when you get to that, you're at operating speed, and then you can survive the rest of the level. So it's got a little bit of a different focus. Like, I have never reached a point at which you can simply park your character in the middle of the screen, and you're just, like, decimating everything that comes at you, the way that you can in Vampire Survivors. Nothing wrong with that at all. That's an awesome feeling. But that feeling does not exist in yet another zombie survivors, because there's always something shooting you from off screen, or there's always something that's charging at you. Like, you cannot stay still. So you do not have that, like, leave your controller and come back in 20 minutes kind of a thing. Again, not a criticism, just an observation. So you're constantly moving around. You're trying to get to the build, the upper levels of the build that you have set for yourself between games. And it's really cool seeing the 3 survivors. You can have a maximum of 3 characters on screen at once. They huddle up like a group, and you combine them around. They're kind of shooting at all angles and just taking things out. This game is just fucking fun. I really like the Survivors games in general. I like that formula. It's a fun one for me. Really enjoy it. And I play many of. I don't play all of them, but I play many of them, and I really spend a lot of time with the ones that I like. And I would say that out of the entire genre, this one is near the top for me. I really like that one a lot. I don't have a complete list. Maybe that would be good, something I could talk about in the future, giving out my favorite Survivors likes. But this one was quite good, I thought. I really had a blast with it. So I am really strongly recommending this if you like Survivors games, even though it's not completely finished. There's still at least one more level and one more character to come. What is here is really fucking fun, and you can totally see like how it works and the flow of it and the different powers and stuff like that. I just think it's really, really well done and just very clever and a nice spin on an established formula where somebody is genuinely bringing something new to the table. That's great. I love it. Yet another Zombie Survivors is a total thumbs up. Total thumbs up. And I guess I will give it an official score when they finally like complete the game, when they add the last content, when you're able to roll credits, when you're or at least when they confirm that there are no credits to roll, and when they add that last character. I'm really curious to see the synergies and see how that goes. So what's here is great. I love it. Give me some more. I think yet another Zombie Survivors is really awesome. I had just a blast with it, so thumbs up for sure. All right, we started off with a bang. Things are going to dip a little bit, unfortunately, but I think we will end on a high note. Let's move on to the new games covered for the first time on this show. First game, I believe it's pronounced Ball Pit, but it looks like Ball X Pit. This is on Game Pass, which is where I played it. It's kind of sweeping my circles right now. A lot of people I know are playing it and really loving it, and that's great. I think it's a fine game. Spoiler, I don't think it's for me, but I think it's a fine game. Basically, there is a giant pit in the earth, and you go into it, and you have a little character that's on the screen, and you're in a vertical alley, and you go start at the bottom, and you walk your way up. And coming from the top, dropping, are monsters in the shape of blocks, and it's kind of like, I don't know, like a brick breaker, like Arkanoid or something like that, or Breakout maybe, where your little character constantly shoots balls, and they bounce all over the place, and whenever they hit a brick, they do damage to it and break the brick. And then if you get too close to the bricks, the monsters inside attack you. And along the way, you have a lot of roguelike elements. You'll get different power-ups as you collect experience from breaking the bricks. So you go in there with your basic guy, you shoot some balls, you break some bricks, you pick up the experience, you get a power-up, and it'll be something like your ball is flaming, or you get little smaller balls that come off of it, or you get a laser that shoots vertically or horizontally or something like that. So you collect these powers and keep walking up, and you shoot as many things as you can. Eventually you either beat the level or you die, and then you go back to the surface above the pit, and you spend your resources in this little town that you kind of cultivate. There's a little area where you can build buildings. You can plant crops, which you use to harvest for resources, which lets you unlock further things. You will find new characters. You'll find buildings to build that gives you access to the new characters. And then you can upgrade some stuff. And that's kind of how the game goes. I think it's a good formula. I mean, I kind of like it. I kind of do. I played it for a good couple of hours, and I like what it's doing. But I think for me, I feel like when I started playing this, the sense that I got was, okay, this is fun, but I feel very underpowered, and I feel like this is the kind of game that's going to make me grind for a while before I get strong enough to survive. I played a good number of rounds, and I was just like, boy, I don't feel like I'm making very much progress here. And I get, into these battles, and the battles kind of feel the same. Like, it's not the kind of thing that, for me anyway, that I can play like 10 times in a row. I can do like maybe like two rounds and maybe 3, and I'm like, okay, I'm good. Like, I'm kind of, not to be rude or anything, but I'm just like, okay, I'm bored of this now. I want to do something different. And so you can't really like play a whole lot of it, which is fine. It's not really criticism. Again, just an observation. But I just, it just felt like the game wasn't moving fast enough for me. And I will say also, in terms of roguelikes, I play all the roguelikes. Literally every single roguelike that comes out on console, I play basically all of them. And I appreciate that they gave you powers in this thing to spice it up, but I don't feel like the powers are varied or different enough. Maybe that changes as you get further in the game. I'm sure it probably does. But as I played my rounds, I was like, okay, the flame power again. Okay, I got the metal ball thing again. Okay, I got the laser again. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm getting the same power-ups like kind of over and over and over. And I just am like, okay, it doesn't really feel significantly different. I don't really feel as though the combos I'm getting are really making a difference. I mean, maybe that changes as you get further in, as you level up, as you unlock more things. I'm sure. I know that somebody was telling me there's a mode where you can get an extra character to go with you, so you double your firepower, which sounds great. I mean, I'm all for that. But just the runs felt too samey to me. They didn't feel different enough. And that's okay if things unlock and the game moves quickly enough, but it is slow in progress. It feels slow in progress, and also each run doesn't feel different enough. And so I just don't want to invest my time in one of those games that's going to take, 100 playthroughs before I get strong enough to survive or whatever. Like I've said on the show before, I'm a fan of the type of roguelike where you might have a chance to win from the very get-go if you manage yourself well and you play well, but this is not one of those games. I don't think there's a chance in hell that you could start the first match and have a lucky enough run that you would beat the game or beat the first level even. And I'm kind of getting tired of those like grind over time games. I've played many of them recently, and it's very popular design in gaming right now, and I'm kind of over it. So nothing really like wrong with it. I just think it's not the kind of game that I want to play right now, and I do think the rewards are a little bit too low for the kind of intensity that I like to play my roguelikes at. A little bit too slow and a little bit too samey. But I can see how people would dig it. A lot of my friends really, really like it a lot. It's on Game Pass, and so if you are intrigued by anything I've said, I mean, give it a shot. Mileage may vary for sure. And me being Mr. Roguelike, I mean, my tendencies and tastes are a little bit different than the norm. I get that. So this seems to be a big hit with a lot of people. It's not with me, but that's A-okay. Give it a shot. See what you think. All right, next up is Spindle. And before I go any further, I always forget this, but I need to say up front that looking at my list, yes, every game on this show, with the exception of Ball Pit, which I played on Game Pass, but everything else that I'm about to talk about, I was given a code from the developer or publisher. So just know that ahead of time. I did not pay any money for these. They were given to me for free. Does not affect my opinion in the least, as you're about to find out, but I just need to make that announcement. So there you go. Okay, next one is Spindle. This is a top-down 2D adventure game. Not a roguelike in any way, which kind of feels weird to say because there's so many of them these days. You play a boy who inadvertently becomes the Grim Reaper, and you have a pig who is your friend, and you go around doing Zelda stuff. That's basically this game. I was attracted to this because I saw the trailer, and I feel like the trailer was a little bit misleading because even though it didn't say so, like your character was obviously like the Grim Reaper or a Grim Reaper type character, complete with like a scythe or a sickle, whatever you want to call it. And from the trailer, it looked as though every time your character attacked, it was a one-hit kill. So maybe I wasn't paying attention, or maybe that was cut a certain way or whatever. But I was like, oh, okay, interesting. If you're the Grim Reaper, I mean, that would make sense. You're the incarnation of death. If every hit is a one-hit kill, okay, but how's that going to play out? That's an interesting concept. I'm not sure that I've played a game where every single hit was an instant kill. So I'm like, okay, that seems fascinating, and I would like to know what it's like to be the Grim Reaper, but also you have a pig. I love pigs. I really want a pig. I don't have one. I could get one, but I don't know. It seems like maybe more work than I want to do. But I think that maybe at some point I will get a pig because they're just so cute. And I know they get it to be huge. I know they're like, oh, they get it to be like 500 pounds or 1,000 pounds. Like, I get it. I know that. That's fine. I don't mind a big pig. That's okay. Divergence, though. We're not talking about actually owning a pig, although I'm still thinking about it now. But so I'm like, okay, so what's going on? So I start the game up, some talking, etc., etc. You're walking around. There's a village. You talk to people. And then you just kind of do some Zelda-like action. Like, the combat is pretty basic. And I was surprised that not every attack is an instant kill. So, like, immediately the thing that drew me to it turned out to not be true. The first couple encounters were definitely instant kills. And I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Cool. And then I got to a bigger enemy that took like 4 or 5 hits. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, never mind. I guess I was either not paying attention or was misled by the trailer. So that seemed to be, or at least I was looking forward to that being the interesting hook. And that just didn't pan out. And then at that point, it was like, you're pushing blocks and you're flipping switches and you're kind of going around and just doing just general Zelda-ish type action. And I'm like, okay, I mean, cool, but I don't think I'm really in the mood for this. And it's not what I thought it was going to be. And, I don't know, whatever. I mean, it's fine. It's cute. If you want to play a Zelda-like action game, I think it's probably okay. I didn't stick with it for very long, so I was kind of disappointed. And I wasn't really looking for a Zelda to play. I was looking for something a little bit more actiony, a little bit more interesting, maybe a new, unique slant to it. But it did felt like anyway. It hewed pretty closely to the Zelda format, and I'm sure that's fine if you like that thing, which is fine. I like it sometimes. I just didn't like it this time. So Spindle, I didn't put too much time into it because I was disappointed, and I don't know. Maybe there's a missed opportunity there. Maybe there was some angle to that they could try something new there. But there you go. Check it out if you like. I think I'm out of that one. Next up, and excuse me if my voice is going a little bit. I feel myself getting stuffy in real time. I'm trying. I'm trying to think very positively to keep my nasal passages open, and I just feel like I don't know if it's like dusty in here or maybe it's mold or I don't know what's going on, but I feel my nose like slowly like closing up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a problem for podcasting. Anyway, TMI. Next game is also kind of a down note. It's called Bye Sweet Carole. This one debuted a trailer maybe like last year, and I remember people being blown away by the trailer because it looked like a Disney movie, like an old-fashioned, hand-animated, pastel kind of colors, princess in the woods, birds flying around, spooky trees and stuff. Like it looked just like it could have been something that was retrieved from the Disney vaults, right? Like, oh, we found this old movie. It was buried underneath some cabinets and we look at this. They never published it. Oh, amazing. Like if you had told me this was a lost Disney movie, I'd be like, okay, I believe you. Because I'm pretty gullible like that. So it looks amazing. When you look at trailers, you're like, that looks amazing. When you see the art style, that looks amazing. But then when you get to the actual gameplay, slightly less amazing. Basically, the story is kind of a mishmash. There's a bunch of girls at a girls' school, and then one of the girls leaves, and so you play the girl who is left behind. She wants to find her friend who was either left or taken away, and so she goes on this kind of like weird adventure to go find her. Full disclosure, I did not play this one for very long because it is clunky and it's difficult and it's slow and it's kind of stodgy, and it just it reminds me a lot of a style of indie game, and I can't even give you a good example. I've seen a million of these and I just can't think of a good one to recommend or to compare it to, but like where you kind of just like walk on a 2D plane back and forth solving puzzles. And that type of game I think can be done well, but here it just feels a little bit just really thick and kludgy and kind of like awkward. The animation, of course, does not look anywhere near as good in the actual gameplay as it does during the cutscenes, which, I mean, I kind of expected, but I thought they would like lean into it a little bit more. There's some nice animation cycles, and that's fine, but the backgrounds are mostly static in a lot of places, and it just kind of looks nice in a screenshot, but when you're playing it, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. It actually doesn't look that good, which is kind of a bummer. You start off, and you just kind of like walk back and forth, a lot of backtracking, doing some really kind of like awkward puzzles where you're like I think the first one was like chase a piece of paper around the woods, and you have to like follow it back and forth, and then it's stuck in a tree, and you got to like find a bench, and you slowly drag the bench over, then you get up, and the paper like flips over somewhere else and flies, and it's just like, okay, like you're just kind of walking back and forth, just doing these very simple tasks. When you later on you're exploring, and it's just kind of the same thing. It's just like there just isn't a lot here. If you like the art style, I don't think it really has anywhere near the appeal in play as it does during the cutscenes. And I think it feels awkward to control. It feels very stiff. Like the animation doesn't really flow the way that you might think it would based on the trailer. So I was like, okay, I get it. I get what they're going for, but I'm out. This doesn't really feel very interesting or engaging, and the art style didn't hold up to what I was hoping it would be. So I'm out. That was Bye Sweet Carole. Again, did not play that one very long. Just did not click. Okay, up next we have Isla, a Frosty Glide. This is a small indie title. Looks kind of like, I don't know, voxely or something. Kind of like blocky, but in a cute way. And the graphics are kind of pulled back from the camera. So you're not really like focused so much on the hard edges of the blocks. It's just, probably an easy way for them to produce what they wanted to produce. This is a 3D kind of platformy exploration game. I feel like maybe they're trying to go for cozy vibes. I'm not sure that it quite gets there. You play a little witch who has a skate broom, is I think what they call it. As you might imagine, it is a combination between a skateboard and a broom, and she's a witch, so she rides it, but she doesn't really ride it like a skateboard exactly. It's more like she walks around And then she jumps and she uses it to glide places. Again, the title, a Frosty Glide. So she'll jump up and then hop onto the skate broom, and it glides, like she's looking like she's riding a skateboard, but it kind of functions like a magic broom, as you might think a witch would, but not free flight. Like you're kind of just gliding everywhere. And so the whole game is that she's going to this island to look for her lost cat. There's more to the story than that. I think there's also elements of like a parent who recently died. But it didn't play like all the way through, so I didn't get the full story there. So she goes to this island, and then it's like it almost feels in a way like it's like a model you're looking at somewhat. Like there's these crafted pathways and platforms and little bits and bobs that you kind of like can grab onto and climb up a little bit, jump from place to place, ledge to ledge. And you've got to figure out, with the ability of your skate broom, which grows over time, where can you get to? How can you get there? And they kind of just let you loose in the space to figure out how to get from A to B. In the cutscenes I've seen so far, they give you a pretty good shot of like, hey, here's this thing over here. This is where you want to go. And so you have a goal, but there's also lots of little pockets along the way that you can search and check things out and explore. You get items to increase your skate broom's ability. You get lots of cosmetic stuff, which is fine if you care about that. So it's like it reminds me a lot of A Short Hike, which I thought was fantastic and marvelous, and I really love A Short Hike a lot, and I think that's a brilliant game. I think Isla is kind of going for the same space, but it doesn't quite get there. I think part of why it doesn't quite get there is mechanical. I think the camera for me was an issue. The way that the levels are constructed is the camera often runs into something, like it runs into a wall, or it's got an odd angle, or sometimes I just couldn't get the right view of something. It doesn't happen all the time, but like enough to where it's like, okay, this feels kind of like unpolished and awkward. Like it's not one of those experiences where you can just like let go and just totally immerse yourself and just be in the moment. Like I was often like, okay, I can't see, or the camera's the wrong way and I can't see through this wall or something. So I mean, not terrible, and it's not like unplayable or anything, but it's noticeable, right? And I think part of it too is I think just lack of communication to the player. I think they want you to explore and find things on your own, but also I think there just needs to be better explanations about what's going on. I kind of wandered around for a little bit. I found some bits and bobs, and I'm like, in the very first level, I think the developers make a pretty crucial mistake in that they set you up in this area, you explore, and literally just as you're learning how this game plays, what this game is, how this game is going to communicate to you, they put up a barrier, like a physical, literal barrier, like it's a force field, and you can't get past it, and they don't explain like what you're supposed to do, and we're new to this game. We don't know what's going on. We don't know what the rules of the world are or whatever. And I've heard like literally every single person I've talked about this game said, yeah, I got stuck at that same place. And I think almost all of us had to look up online what the answer was. And that's a terrible mistake for the very, very beginning of your game, just as you're getting started when a player is trying to learn your game. I'm just going to spoil it for you here because I think it's a stupid mistake that they did. So what happens is you're in this level. You need to find 3 of an object to get the force field down. And like you've just started the game like 5 minutes ago. Like you don't know anything about the game, like what's going on. And so I was searching, covering the same land over and over. And I'm like, well, what? I don't know what am I supposed to look for something? Is this the kind of game that hides things behind things? Is this the kind of game that hides things in a high place that I'm not seeing? I saw a couple ledges that I'm like, do I need to come back later? Can I reach that? Am I not understanding how to reach it? Like, I'm not quite sure. Like, I didn't know what the path forward was. And I'm sure that the developers, who I am absolutely sure have spent a long time of their life building this cute little game, they knew the answer, and it didn't occur to them that other people wouldn't know the answer. And I think they really badly misjudged how much of a challenge the average player would be wanting or be ready for that early in the game. It was a mistake, big mistake. Like I said, literally everybody I talked to stuck in the exact same spot. Hey, did you play Isla? Oh yeah, did you get stuck? Yeah, I did. You too? Yep. So what happens is they leave 2 of the items in places you can find pretty quickly if you're diligent about searching. The 3rd item is hidden behind a waterfall, and I know that hiding things behind waterfalls is a pretty traditional game thing for people to do, but it doesn't quite look like a waterfall, and you don't really know that that's how the game works, and it's in a place that honestly doesn't look like you should be going there. And so I don't know why they would have expected players to do that. I think that's expecting a much higher degree of fuck it, I'm going to explore whatever, and I don't care. And if it looks like I'm going to fall into this pit or in the water and reset, then so be it. I mean, I think that's asking a level of willingness to explore that a player hasn't built up by that point. I don't think that they can't get there, but expecting everybody to be on the same page from the get-go is not a good way to approach this. And I think we need to be taught a few times in more overt ways that that's how the game operates. So I got stuck. I couldn't figure it out. Looked it up online. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Whatever. That sucks. And I honestly lost a lot of the wind in my sails. Between the awkwardness of the camera and getting stuck in that level for a long time and just feeling like the developers didn't quite know what they were doing, I did not feel a lot of confidence that I would be in good hands as the game progressed. So it's cute. Honestly, I don't think it's as good as a short hike. I think a short hike really nails what it needs to nail, and I think it's a masterclass in this type of content. And I think that perhaps the people behind Isla should rethink what they're doing and maybe take a slightly different approach to what they're trying to do. So Isla, a Frosty Glide, I think it's cute, but I think it's also got some rough edges that need some sanding down, and I did not finish that one. So there you go. Next up, Detective Dotson. This is a 2D pixel-based game, playing it on the Switch. It is set in India, and everybody in the game is Indian, which is great. We don't get a lot of content featuring that part of the world, so I'm always excited to see different cultures, different people, different viewpoints on things, which is really super welcome, absolutely welcome. You play a detective who has got to solve some stuff, as you might guess from the title. But again, we're kind of on a bummer streak on the show today. Going to finish strong, but I think this one is also kind of a bummer for me. Not that there's necessarily anything bad with it, but as I started to play, it's very there's some untraditional choices being made, and I think that it's I don't even know how to even say this, but I think like the expectations of how a game works and what you do are slightly different in this particular game. I don't know if that's a cultural thing or perhaps the experience of the development team. But like from the get-go, it's kind of interesting to approach. So the controls are not changeable. You cannot remap the buttons. And the buttons are laid out in what to me seems like an unusual array. There's like a jump and the activate and stuff. Everything feels like it's in the wrong place, which is kind of for me, again, maybe that makes perfect sense to other people. But for me personally, I was kind of struggling with the buttons. But as you start the game, you get hit with some dialogue, and then you're like in this little town area, and they want you to start talking to people like immediately. There's like a mystery board with like little red strings between objects. Your first mystery is like who painted a dog, like I don't know, somebody spray painted a dog a different color or something, and you got to figure that out. And it gets dense in an unpleasant way, like from the beginning. And maybe other people disagree. That's fine. But like I wanted to like have an easier on ramp and just figure out what is this game about? What am I doing? Give me a quick flavor. And right from the get-go, it's like, here's this town full of people, and there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of rooms to go in, and they're like, yeah, just search around for stuff. And I'm like, whoa. That's too big. That's too big of an area, too many people to start with. It needs to be smaller than that so I can understand what your game is doing. Give me a good flavor for where you're going to. I don't want to dive in the deep end, and I feel like it drops you in the deep end. At least for me, I don't have a lot of patience for talking to townsfolk and villagers. It's one of my least favorite things to do in RPGs. And having this like wide, unstructured approach at the very start of the game made me feel a little bit unsure and unmoored. I wasn't quite sure what to do or where to go. And I just was like, okay, I need again, walk me through something simple and easy. And if the bulk of the game is walking around talking to people, that's just like an oil and water situation for me. I was hoping it would be something more linear, something more prescripted, at least in the beginning. But for me, almost immediately, I started noping out because, again, controls are weird, and getting in this little town and talking to people. There's also like a jump function, which is strange. I'm not sure where you're going to be jumping or how much platforming is going to be involved. There were multiple shops where you could buy things. People were like, I need an item before I'll tell you the clue that I have. And then I'm like, I got to figure out how to get money and then how to buy a thing and then give it to you. And I'm not sure if you have the clue that I need. Like a lot of like really experimental and new approaches to things. maybe good, maybe bad. For me, bad, but other people maybe good. But I was like, whoa, this feels like it's hitting all of my do not like buttons like at the same time immediately. And so I was like, I can't, I can't deal with this. I don't want to start this game and immediately search a town to talk to people, to figure out how to get money, to figure out how to buy items, to give people these things. And I'm not sure that that's what I'm even supposed to do. No, thank you. So I noped out pretty quick. It just was giving me like a lot of warning signals, a lot of red flags going up. But it's interesting. It looks visually interesting. I think the richness of the graphics. I mean, like looking at the graphics, it looks like when you see pictures of India, like in National Geographic or like online or any news story about maybe Indian, anything at all. When you see like the people in the streets and the vendors and the colors and stuff. I mean, it kind of gives you that same flavor. So I feel like the visual style is really nice and appealing. I think the art is cute. Every screenshot I've seen looks really charming. But the actual experience of playing it turned me cold pretty quickly. Again, I scratched the surface of this one, but I did not want to keep scratching. So if you are more inclined to have talking to people and giving people items as a main aspect of gameplay, you might want to check this one out. And if you're interested in Indian culture or just seeing games development from other countries outside the US and Japan, you also might want to check this one out. I think there's probably a lot here for people who swing that way. And I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with this, but just if I had known this is what it would be like, I don't think I would have dropped in on it. But I'm glad that I gave it a shot at least just to kind of see. And I think that this game is probably going to be perfect for people out there who are not me. So Detective Dotson, playing that on the Switch. Okay, last game of the show. I know we've had kind of a string of games that I did not connect with. I try to mix it up to have, at least 50-50 favorable and semi-unfavorable coverage. But it was just a bad week. Just a week where things lined up that way, and sometimes that happens. But I am very glad to be talking about this next game, and I think we're going to finish on an up note because so far I've actually been having a great time. It's called Bounty Star. This one is published by Annapurna Interactive, which I have a pretty good track record with. I think they put out a lot of games that I think I enjoy. I know they've gone through some recent changes, and maybe this is one of the games they've chosen since the shakeup, because it's not what I would traditionally think of as a choice from Annapurna. Not that that's a good or bad thing, just kind of it's not in my head what I have categorized as their usual output. Comes from a small developer called Dino God, which is a pretty badass name for a studio, so thumbs up on that. It is a third-person, real-time action mecha game, but also with a Western flair, which I think is amazing because I love Western plus anything. I don't really watch a lot of just Western, or I don't really enjoy just Western, but Western plus horror, Western plus sci-fi, Western plus basically anything is like a winning formula for me personally. So Western plus mech suits. The game begins with a flashback. You are a soldier, lady soldier, commanding a squad of mech suits, and you're defending a Western type town. Things go horribly wrong because you make a stupid, very typical and cliche good guy choice of letting the bad guy walk away after they've done dirt to you. Which, don't do that. Let's normalize not doing that. I think, slight tangent here, but I think that in Western culture at least, and specifically in American culture, we have gone so far down the hole of good people never use violence for any reason, ever, for any circumstance, never, ever. And I'm not like a warmonger. I'm not saying we should be violent all the time. And I think a lot of people think of America and Americans as violent, but there's a different take on that. I think that the individual here in America is strongly encouraged to not be violent. And I think that kind of gets back to capitalism and fascism. They want the populace to be passive and to not push back on anything. And so we've been inundated with dozens and dozens and dozens, millions of stories. Jump from dozens to millions, that's fine, whatever. Where the good guy always gives mercy to the bad guy, no matter what happens. Always gives him a second chance. Always turns the other cheek. And we see this story time and again where there's like a serial killer. Let's say, for example, a serial killer who's killed 35 people. And then the detective catches him, they fight, and then the detective's got his gun out, and I think it would be a justified shooting. And then the detective's like, if I just killed you, I'd be as bad as you. And it's like, fuck no, you wouldn't. That person killed like 35 people, and you're killing the person who killed those people. That is not the same thing. Like when you go to have an operation, like let's say you're sick, and you go to the doctor, and you got like this tumor, or whatever, cancer or something, right? Nobody likes cancer. Fuck cancer, right? So you go to the doctor takes the tumor out. Those tumor cells die. No one's like, but what about the tumor? Oh, the tumor deserved to live. Like, nobody says that. They're like, fuck that, remove that, and stay healthy. Same thing. When you've got murderers and scumbags and people who are evil and doing like terrible deed after terrible deed, I think it's okay to get rid of those people. We don't need to give them a second chance all the time. Like this guy in this game, he shows up with his crew. And he like leads an assault on these people, holds the town hostage, doing all sorts of dirt. The good guy, the hero that you play, like solo battles him, comes out on top, and then she's like, yeah, just walk away and don't come back. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's going to immediately come back and get you. Like, I mean, so ridiculous. And so what happens? He gets to the edge of town, turns around because she let him go, and like launches a whole bunch of missiles and kills basically everything in town. So, okay, that wouldn't have happened if you had put him down when you had the chance. So that's all I'm saying. I don't think that all the time letting people go is the right answer, especially if they are dangerous, murderous criminals doing dirt to your people and to the town and to society and civilization. Maybe those people got to go. Anyway, something to think about. Anyway, so we're getting back to the game here. What happens? Okay, so after you fast forward, after her whole town gets destroyed and everybody she loves is killed because she let this guy go, we jump forward in the future, and she is like a, I don't know, drifter, lost purpose, depressed, doesn't know what to do with herself. She gets an offer to take over a small garage and get a mech suit that comes with the garage and do some small jobs for one of her former squad mates, I believe. I think that's who that is. And so you kind of like kickstart your life again. Now, what I like about this is that they spend a pretty good amount of time on the character. A little bit of self-talk. She writes in a diary so you can see her inner thoughts. She has some dialogue with other people. And, you know, she's talking about, like, the fresh start she has. She talks about the feelings of getting back in a mech suit after having that terrible thing happen. And, you know, it's bad because it brings back those memories of that day and of what she lost. But also it's good because she is feeling empowered and she can make some change and she can try to do some good, you know, good deeds with this thing. Have this mech suit be a force for good rather than destruction as it was back then. So I appreciate that. They're really going harder on the story than they needed to, which I think is great. And I think so far the story has been good. It's not too much. It's just like a little bit here and there, but I feel like it's good and sufficient and paints the picture properly. We also get a good sense of the character. Her name's Clem, short for Clementine. Clem, like, you know, like being in this place, starting over. I mean, I'm sure if you've lived a little bit of life, you've probably had a bad breakup, or maybe you fell out with some friends, or maybe, you know, you and your parents had a falling out or something like that. And so there's always or many times there's a point in someone's life when you have to kind of start from scratch. You've got to throw away the stuff you've built and rebuild what you have and start new. And just that feeling, I think, is pretty well captured in this game. Again, it's not super deep, but I feel like they're even trying for it is pretty notable. So having Clem out in this place on her own, living alone in this thing, kind of reminded me of when I had a big turning point in my life, and I moved out away from home, real far away from home, to a place where I didn't know anybody, and I got an apartment, and I was like alone, and I had no friends at the time, and I was just like, that whole feeling of like just starting over, like hardcore reset, I feel like really connected with me in this, and it really made sense to me. So I like that a lot. In terms of the gameplay itself, you're on this garage. It's on a little piece of land. There's a small little farm plot. There's a couple little machines. So I'm still in the early game. I think I'm only like maybe 25 or 30% through the game, where I'm not really doing a lot of farming yet. I'm not doing a lot of maintenance and stuff, but I can see the seeds of it there. So mostly what I'm doing is setting up my area, and then you have your mech suit. Your mech suit is pretty customizable. You can change the gun, the melee weapon. You can change the dash machine that's inside of it. You can change a couple other bits and bobs. It's not like Armored Core where like every single aspect of it is changeable. But you can change a pretty good amount of things, like maybe 10 or 12 things, as opposed to something in Armored Core where you've got like 40 things, right? So I appreciate that. And then somebody will call in at the start of each day and say, hey, I got a couple jobs for you. You can pick and choose. And they give you like the main quest storylines. And then there are other ones you can do just for fun. And they basically say it up front. They're like, yeah, these change by the day. They're good for money and supplies, but don't feel like you need to do them if you don't want to. And that's fine. You can do as many of those as you wish or as few. You get out to the field and your mech suit kind of runs around. It's third person, cameras behind you. And you'll see enemies off in the distance. You run up and approach them. You can shoot them if you've got the right gun equipped. Shotgun, assault rifle, pistol, grenade launcher. I'm sure there's more to come. I haven't unlocked everything yet. So you've got those. And then you've got like different melee things. You've got like a brass knuckles. You've got a sword. You've got a chainsaw. Various things. You can dash. And then you can add and take away things. There's like a machine you can add to give you a heal. But if you need to do something else other than the heal, you can take that out. You lose the ability to heal, but you might get a shield instead. And maybe the shield will function better for that particular level. Or maybe you feel like the shotgun's not great because you have a lot of distant enemies, so you switch to the assault rifle. Or maybe that's not good enough. You're going to have one big enemy up close. You better go back to the shotgun. You can kind of do those sorts of things. And I think that at first, when you start to play the game, it feels a little bit basic. But as you get further into it, you start to see some of the nuance. The customizability of the robot is kind of a key factor in gameplay. You've got to figure out what gear is best for each level. There's also a rock, paper, scissors aspect to it, which, to be honest, I haven't really engaged with very much. I feel like so far I've been pretty okay with whatever weapon I wanted to use, whichever one that feels better to me. But there's definitely, I mean, they say it on Front Street, like when you go to your mech, there's a little chart beside the mech that shows like the paper, rock, scissors aspect of it. And that's cool. I'll come back to it if I feel like I'm getting really pounded in a level or something. But so far it's been okay. I think mostly it's been about spacing and positioning and just kind of like general strategy and crowd management. I feel like has been kind of a bigger thing. Not really the rock, paper, scissors so much, which is fine because I'm not really the biggest fan of rock, paper, scissors type stuff. But it's there, and I appreciate that they tried to, change it up a little bit. The thing that is really surprising to me, though, the thing that really grabbed my attention is the heat management is huge in this game. So important, which I did not expect. And they lean into that by giving you various things you can put on your mech. So in this game, there's like a day cycle, day-night cycle, where there's a morning, afternoon, and evening. Morning is neutral heat. Afternoon is extra heat. And evening is cold on your machine. And so each weapon you have gives or takes away a certain amount of heat. Using the grenade launcher is great because it rocks, but it puts tons of heat on your machine, which sucks. And if you overheat or freeze, either way, your machine stops for a few seconds and leaves you vulnerable to the enemies. But the way to counter this is by choosing the time of day that you go out, being mindful of that temperature, and also the equipment you have. So if you're going to do a lot of nighttime missions, your mech's going to be cold or colder than normal. Sometimes it's a problem, sometimes not. If it is a problem, you can have a heat core installed that like gives you extra heat so you're not as prone to freezing. Or during the day, if you need to do some daytime missions at high noon when it's the hottest, you can have a cold core put in that like cools off your machine. And you might want to change out your gear. There's one dodge booster that adds heat, but there's also a dodge booster that takes away heat. So let's say, for example, you're going out in midday and it's real hot and you're using the grenade launcher, which is also real hot. You're going to freeze up pretty quickly because you're going to overheat. But you have the dodge booster. You can shoot, dodge, and every dodge reduces your heat rather than adding to it, which, to be honest, is kind of brain-breaking. Like, that's a very new approach I haven't really seen before. So, like, I got in this pattern of, like, fire 2 grenades, dodge, get the heat back down, fire a couple more, kind of managing the heat because it's, like, a bad situation to be in. The game also puts forward recommended or should I say challenge loadouts where they want you to use a specific loadout in order to beat a level to get extra rewards, which is neat. And I think so far the combat's been pretty good. It took me a little while to get into the rhythm of it. And I will say it's not perfect. I do like that the mech suit when you're walking around feels chunky and it feels heavy, which is great. It doesn't feel like super heavy and chunky, like you're not driving a tank, but it's not like anime light speed zipping around mecha either. Like you feel like there's some weight to it. You got to be a little bit more deliberate about how you're moving. So I think that works. I think targeting feels really good. I think doing the different abilities is really nice. That's fine. If I had any issue with it, I feel like the combat can be sometimes, it needs a little bit of a tweak. I find myself up against walls sometimes, and I feel like you should be able to get out from the wall a little bit easier than you do. I get pinned in sometimes. There are a couple objects in the environments that you get stuck on that you don't think you should get stuck on. Like I'll be trying to dodge and I'll hit a log that I think I should have just like went over, but it stops me and then I get kind of pinned for a second. I think also sometimes you can get that kind of animation where maybe you're taking a melee swing at somebody, but you're like slightly off in the wrong direction, and like it's hard to kind of like get back to where that person is located. There is a lock-on function. It doesn't work exactly the way that I would want it to, and it's not like a hard lock-on because you can still miss people. And it's okay. I think that could use a little bit more work. I think having a improved targeting system on your mech would be totally okay. That would be fine. So I think combat is okay. I think it could be tight, and it's not airtight, but I think it's serviceable and good, and it feels okay, especially when you get the hang of like what's going on. When you understand what the game is doing and take it on its own terms, I think it works really well. But I like the rhythm of doing a mission, speccing things out the way you need. Go back to your garage. You hang out for a minute. You can plant some flowers and harvest some vegetables. You cook some food for bonuses. Buy a few things, craft a few things. It's all very light cooking, very light crafting. It's not anything that's a real problem or issue. And I will say this game has some concessions towards quality of life, which are really nice. One of my favorite things about it is when you go to craft something, you can buy these various blueprints to make, new guns or new parts or whatever. You go to your crafting bench, and if you don't have the part, it simply says, would you like to buy the part? Rather than making you get out of the crafting bench, walking over to the shop interface, entering the shop interface, buying the thing, going back to the craft. I mean, they're very smart to get rid of that. And so you just go to your crafting bench. If you have the blueprint, if you've got the stuff, make it. If you don't have the stuff, do you want to buy it? If you have the money, click yes. You get it immediately, and then you craft. I love it. I love it. Everybody in the world from this point forward for all time, please do that, because it's just a time tax if you have to like do that other interface stuff. Brilliant. I love it. So that's really great. I like that a lot. I also like how much is surfaced. I think the UI is pretty good. I think they tell you a lot of good information up front, and I think that's really easy to get into. So I've been liking it. I like it a lot. Western plus mech plus these little micro-sized Armored Core missions and little bite-sized areas that you go into. It's not open world. I should probably mention that when you do a mission, you get warped to the area, and it's basically just like a big open area. It's not open world. It's not huge. You're not doing free roaming anything. So it's kind of like these little arenas that are small. For example, one of them is like a baseball field. You're inside the baseball field taking guys out. Another one is like you're near a crashed airplane. And when you get too far away, there's just like a wall barrier that shows up. So they're just like, yeah, I mean, you can't go any further than this because we didn't create anything out here, which is fine. That doesn't bother me at all. I'm not expecting like a deep level of realism or anything. So I think that's okay. And I'm just really enjoying this experience a lot so far. As far as downsides, I did mention the controls and the camera. But I think one thing that I think I'm a little bit concerned about is that I hope that they don't overextend themselves and run out of ideas too quickly. I don't know how long this game is. I feel like it's peppy. I feel like it's moving along at a good pace. And if you're doing just the main campaign missions, I feel like you just boom, 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 you're moving forward. So I think that's good. But I'm a little bit afraid that the team is going to run out of content or ideas, and it's going to just be kind of iterating on the same content until the end of the game. I hope that they've got some more surprises in store. I hope that there are some twists coming up. I would definitely like some more equipment. I would definitely like different enemy types. I would definitely like more mission types. But we'll see what happens. I mean, so far, again, I'm only about 25-30% through the way through the game. Having a great time. Loving it so far. Having a very pleasurable experience. I think it's really fun and neat, and I dig it. So I'm going to hope that energy continues and that they will finish strong. And I don't think this needs to be like a 50-hour experience. I'm guessing based on what I've seen so far, we're thinking maybe like 10 hours is what it feels like. That's my guess. And that would be perfect for me. So we'll see what happens. I think they'd be smart to get in and get out without wearing out the player or wearing out the content, but we shall see. But so far, Bounty Star is a heck of a lot of fun. I really like it a lot. I think it's great. It feels fresh. It feels interesting. I like the narrative approach. I like the Western plus mech. I like the small bite-sized approach to the levels and the customizability and the feel of the content, the strategy that goes into the content. And I feel like so far it is great. So TBD as to a final score because I still got to finish this, but it's starting off with all systems go. So happy to see that. All right, folks. Game portion of the show is officially done, but like many folks, I do spend a few minutes a week in front of screens that don't have menus or life bars. That's right. It is time for the TV and movie roundup. Nothing really to report as far as TV goes. I think we just have been watching a couple movies lately. And somebody told me it was Jean-Claude Van Damme's birthday recently, maybe a week or two ago or something like that. And I was like, oh man, I haven't seen one of his movies in like ages. And so the wife is always up for some good action movies. And we're like, okay, well let's in honor of Jean-Claude, let's choose one of his films and we'll watch one. And neither one of us had seen Time Cop, where he plays a time cop. Spoiler. Where he needs to go back in time to fix some stuff that's mostly related to his own life. Like they don't go back and like protect Abraham Lincoln or anything like that. They don't go back and kill Hitler. But some guy is trying to wipe out Jean-Claude in this movie. I forget what his name is in the movie, but they're trying to wipe him out. So he tries to go back to preserve his own timeline. And it was fun. It was fun. It was good. You know, he's a charismatic dude. He's obviously in great shape. They take like every opportunity to show off his bod, which is fine. Not my particular flavor, but I can see how people would appreciate that. And he's just a goofy, fun guy, you know. So they do this action and whatever. It's not Shakespeare. It's not Hemingway. It's not going to make you rethink the human condition. But it was a good watch. Couple cool fights, couple cool scenes, and really that's what we're here for. So that was cool. We liked Time Cop. That was good. And we looked at a list of his filmography, and everybody was saying that Bloodsport was his best movie. And I'm like, I don't know if that's true, but I hadn't seen Bloodsport in a long time. I've seen it once. I think the wife had never seen it. And so we watched that one. And I believe Bloodsport, if memory serves, was his very first big film, his breakthrough, as it were. And it was pretty good. It was basically just like a kumite, kind of a fighting tournament. He's a guy from a U.S. Army base, and he's going AWOL to go fight in this tournament. So he's got some government agents chasing him. Forrest Whitaker, in a very surprise turn. I forgot he was in this movie. It's like Forrest Whitaker is so young in this movie. I'm like, oh my God, he's like babyface. Also, Jean-Claude is quite babyfaced in this one as well. It's kind of shocking to go back in time and see them back then. But he goes to this tournament in Hong Kong, and they fight, and there's just like a series of fights, and it's just like, you know, it's just a fighting tournament, and he's in there kicking ass, and it's just really fun. It's a good, straightforward action movie, but again, you know, he's doing the splits like 10 times during the movie because that's what he was famous for. Kicking people, doing all sorts of stunts, and yeah, it was good. Good times. We got off of the Jean-Claude Van Damme train for a minute, and I think the only other thing we watched this week was Critters from, I don't know, early 80s maybe, sci-fi movie. I watched this one a bunch of times as a kid. It was really popular in my friend circle when it debuted back in the day, and the wife had never seen this one. She knew of Critters, and she'd seen clips, and she knew what they were, and she, you know, it's kind of hard to like be in the horror world even a little bit and not hear about Critters or see them. So we watched the original, and man, it holds up. It's a good ass movie. It definitely has that like kind of quaint 80s feel to it, where the people are a certain way and they dress a certain way, and you know, the choices they make in the movie are very 80s. Not going to get into that now. That's a whole podcast in and of itself. But it was just fun. Basically, these little aliens escape from a prison planet that they're on, and they steal a ship and they go to Earth. Two shape-shifting bounty hunters chase them, and they chase them to Earth. And when they get there, they adopt human disguises, which is actually pretty funny because one of the bounty hunters chooses the appearance of a very famous, like world famous rock star. So wherever he goes, people are like, oh my God, it's so-and-so. Like they, you know, not good for stealth. And the other bounty hunter cannot decide which face he likes, so he keeps changing. And so throughout the movie, it's kind of like this like in joke that like he keeps looking like somebody else, and so people will encounter him and be like, oh hey, it's the Reverend, oh hey, it's Bob from the bar, hey it's so and so again, not great for like stealth or whatever. But the critters themselves are really fun. They're like these kind of shitty looking puppets, but they are also kind of charming, like these little fuzzballs with evil eyes and a bunch of teeth, and they shoot spikes out of the head to paralyze people. And it's not super scary, it's not super gory, it's not bloody. It's just like a fun little monster sci-fi romp. Really good times. I would be fine watching this with my kids. I think most kids, if they're old enough to take a little bit scary, would probably dig this one. Nothing explicit. You don't get your usual bare breasts that you find so common in the 80s. There's barely any swearing, and the violence is really nothing. I mean, you know, people get bitten. There's some blood, but like, you know, nobody's getting dismembered or disemboweled or anything like that. None of the disses. So it's just a really fun time. Critters is good time. I'm not sure we're going to watch the rest of the series. Maybe we will, but this one, the first one, worth watching for sure if you haven't seen it. All right, folks, that is a show. Before the closing music, I'd love for you to leave reviews, share the show on social media, but most important of all, please recommend this show to your friends, because nothing beats good old word of mouth. And as always, would love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up, SoVideoGamesPodcast@gmail.com. You can also reach me on social media. These days, it's primarily Instagram and Blue Sky. It's my name, BradGallaway, all A's, no O's. You can also hit me up on the Videogames Discord, which is free of charge. Just contact me, email, Blue Sky, Discord, Instagram, whatever. Hit me up, and I will get you in on the Discord free of charge. We can continue that conversation. And finally, if you would like to support the show and help with the cost of running this podcast and GameCritics.com, you can do that over at patreon.com/the Videogames Podcast. Every single dollar helps, and €1 helps that much more. And again, mega shout out to everybody who has been supporting the show. Incredibly appreciated. And we will keep on naming names of the good people, my favorite people, until we get to the end of that list. There's more to come. All right, folks, that is going to do it for episode 459. Thank you again for joining me here on the Video Games Podcast, and I'll see you next week.